The studio lights burned bright, too bright, almost blinding. The crowd was restless, their laughter echoing through the air like static before lightning. It was just another day at the View. Or at least that's how it seemed. But beneath the glittering stage lights and the polished smiles, something darker pulsed. A charge. A quiet, invisible storm waiting to break. The camera swept across the table whoopigoldberg.com and grounded. Joy Behar, playful as ever. Sarah N. beaming with warmth. And then there was Sunny Hostin poised, precise, unreadable. Her arms folded, her eyes locked on the door where the guest of the hour would soon enter. The audience erupted as Michael B. Jordan stepped into the studio. The energy shifted instantly. Charisma seemed to trail him like a shadow-tailored suit, confident stride. That familiar smile that could melt a camera lens in seconds. He was there to promote his latest film, another adrenaline-fueled blockbuster, already dominating headlines. Whoopi rose first, greeting him with her signature warmth. Joy cracked a joke about his abs, earning a wave of laughter from the audience. Even Sarah joined in, her grin, genuine and bright. But Sunny. She barely nodded. The camera caught at the fleeting stiffness, the tight smile that never reached her eyes. The crowd didn't notice. But Michael did. He sat down at the round table, leaning in, effortlessly charming. He spoke about his new film about stunts, passion, pushing limits. The audience hung on every word. But from the corner of the frame, Sunny watched silently. Expression flat, waiting, and then a look passed between them, brief, sharp, electric. The music faded under the conversation, tension creeping into the room like smoke. Michael laughed, describing a dangerous helicopter scene. Joy clapped. Whoopi nodded approvingly. Sarah giggled. But Sunny didn't move. The narrator's tone deepens. In every live show, there's a rhythm, a pattern. And sometimes, someone breaks it. Sunny shifted in her seat. Her fingers tapped the table once, then twice. A signal, maybe. A warning. Because in less than 2 minutes, the conversation that began with laughter would ignite into one of the most explosive moments in talk show history. The smile on Michael's face lingered. The crowd cheered. The cameras rolled, and the storm was just beginning. The energy in the studio was effortless at first. Michael B. Jordan was in his element, every word landing with practiced precision. He spoke of long shooting days, late-night training, and the drive to make every film bigger, bolder, more authentic. Whoopi chuckled as he mimicked a director shouting, "Cut." Mid-fall from a helicopter, the audience roared with laughter. Joy teased, "You're making us all look lazy, Michael." More laughter. Even Sarah joined in, her eyes sparkling. For a moment, it felt like a master class in charisma. The kind of interview producers dream about: light, viral, unproblematic, but just off to the side. Sunny Hostin sat still. Her expression, cool, analytical, detached. She waited for her moment, for the rhythm to falter just long enough for her to slide in a question that would turn the tone on its head. When Whoopi passed her the conversational baton, the atmosphere shifted, subtle, but undeniable. Sunny leaned forward, voice calm, tone deliberate. "That's all very impressive," she said, her words slicing through the laughter like a blade. "But why do you think audiences should care about yet another mindless action movie when there are real issues in the world?" Silence. The laughter stopped mid-breath. The audience froze, confused. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate. Michael blinked, his trademark grin faltering for just a second before he recovered. "Well," he began slowly, "I think entertainment serves a purpose. Especially in tough times, people need escape, inspiration, hope. That's part of what storytelling does." Sunny nodded, but it wasn't agreement. It was ammunition. "Escapism," she repeated, the word laced with something sharp. "How convenient for someone in your position selling fantasy while real people suffer." A ripple moved through the audience. Joy shot Sunny a look. Sarah fidgeted in her seat. Whoopi started to speak, but Michael raised a hand slightly, composed. I think you're underestimating how powerful film can be, he replied evenly. It brings people together. It gives them something to believe in. Sunny's lips curved into a faint smile. Or distracts them from what really matters. The tension was thick enough to feel. Somewhere in the control room, a producer whispered into a headset, "Keep rolling. Don't cut." Because this wasn't just an interview anymore, it was about to become a collision. The air in the studio tightened. Like the moment before thunder strikes. The hum of the camera seemed louder. You could almost hear hearts beating in the silence that followed Sunny's words. Michael leaned back slightly, composed but wary. The smile was gone, now replaced by focus. "I think there's room for both," he said. "Entertainment and awareness. You can uplift and inspire people in more ways than one," Sunny's tone sharpened. "You're one of the few black actors in Hollywood with real influence. And instead of using that platform for something meaningful, you're playing men who blow things up and kiss pretty women." Gasps rippled through the audience. Whoopi's eyebrows shot up. Joy opened her mouth, then closed it again. Michael's jaw tensed. "With all due respect," he said slowly, "you have no idea what I do with my platform." He leaned forward now, voice firmer. "I've created production companies to elevate black filmmakers. I've funded scholarships. I've built opportunities for people who never had them." Sunny waved a dismissive hand. "A few tax write-offs don't erase the stereotypes you perpetuate." That was the moment the crowd stopped breathing. The laughter from earlier was long gone, replaced by the kind of silence that weighs heavy on skin. Michael's eyes narrowed. "I tell stories that matter about redemption, family, struggle, resilience. If you watched my films instead of making assumptions, you'd know that." Sunny tilted her head, lips tightening. "When was the last time you turned down a paycheck because a role didn't uplift the community?" It wasn't a question, it was an accusation. Michael inhaled, slow, steady. His fingers tapped the table once, a quiet sign of restraint. "You're assuming the worst without ever asking why I do what I do," Whoopi interjected gently. "Okay, let's take a breath," but Sunny pressed harder, eyes locked on Michael. "You've built a career playing the same type of angry, powerful, dangerous. Isn't that part of the problem?" Michael's voice dropped, calm but cutting. "The only problem I see is people confusing strength with stereotype." The tension snapped. Like a wire pulled too tight, the audience didn't know where to look at. Sunny's piercing stare, or at the calm fury, rising behind Michael's eyes, something was breaking, and neither of them was about to back down. The tension in the studio was no longer invisible, it was alive. It pulsed between them like static, sharp, and electric. Cameras zoomed in. The control room whispered frantic commands, but no one dared to interrupt. Michael's composure began to fracture. His voice, though steady, carried an unmistakable edge. "You talk about responsibility, Sunny, but you're sitting here tearing down someone who's actually trying to build something." Sunny didn't blink. Her tone was surgical. "Criticism isn't tearing down, Michael. It's accountability. Accountability." He leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. "You don't know the first thing about what I've done for this industry on screen and off. I've created jobs, opened doors, told stories no one else wanted to tell." Sunny shot back. "And yet, what people see are explosions, guns, and another man trying to prove his worth through violence." The audience murmured. Joy glanced toward Whoopi, who now sat still, her expression unreadable. Michael's patience thinned. "You're missing the point. Representation isn't about perfection. It's about possibility. I play flawed men because real men are flawed." Sunny's smile was razor thin. "Or maybe it's easier to sell flaws than fix the system." Her words hit like a slap. Michael froze for half a second, processing. The crowd shifted uneasily. You could feel everyone waiting for him to respond. Waiting for the explosion they knew was coming. "Do you even hear yourself right now?" he said, voice low but steady. "You're turning an interview about art into a public trial." Sunny's chin lifted. "If you can't handle tough questions, maybe you shouldn't sit at this table." Whoopi raised a hand. "All right, enough," but Michael wasn't finished. "You think I'm here for softballs?" I've faced tougher crowds than this. But there's a difference between a question and an attack. Sunny crossed her arms. If you feel attacked, maybe it's because there's truth in what I'm saying. A collective gasp rippled through the studio. Even the stage manager in the shadows took a step forward, unsure whether to signal a commercial break. Michael's hands were flat on the table now. His eyes, sharp, unflinching, met hers. This isn't a debate anymore, he said quietly. It's personal. Sunny's silence was answer enough. The storm had found its voice. The studio air had shifted from tense to combustible. Every breath, every glance, every syllable now felt like it might set the room ablaze. Michael sat back for a moment, his jaw tight, eyes cold. You know, he began slowly. It's funny how easy it is to tear someone down when you've never walked in their shoes. Sunny leaned in, her voice laced with quiet challenge. And it's just as easy to hide behind fame when people stop holding you accountable. The crowd murmured half gasps, half whispers. Joy pressed her lips together, eyes darting toward Whoopi, silently pleading for her to step in. But Whoopi knew better than to interrupt when two storms collided. Michael's voice dropped to a near whisper. You're questioning my work, my message, my motives. But now, you're questioning me. Sunny's brow arched. Shouldn't I? Something in him broke. The words hit harder than she expected. His voice rose not in anger, but in pain sharpened into precision. You're questioning my blackness, my integrity, and everything I've fought to build. The audience gasped, a collective intake of breath like the moment before glass shatters. Sunny's tone hardened. I'm questioning the choices that shape how the world sees us. That's my job. Michael shook his head, standing now, no longer the movie star, but a man stripped bare under harsh lights. Your job isn't to humiliate people for ratings. It's to have a conversation. But that's not what this is anymore. Whoopi finally interjected. Okay, let's just... But it was too late. Sunny's palm slammed against the table. Mugs rattling, water splashing onto cue cards. Don't twist this, Michael. Came here to talk about your movie. I came here to talk about truth. He looked at her steady, unflinching. The room had vanished. It was just the two of them, locked in a silent battle of conviction. Then here's mine, he said quietly, unclipping his mic. This isn't an interview anymore. It's an ambush. The crowd erupted, gasps, shouts, disbelief. Producers in the booth froze. Cameras stayed locked on him as he rose from his chair, the boom mic following like a witness. Without another word, Michael B. Jordan turned, adjusted his jacket, and walked off set. The sound of his footsteps echoed louder than any applause ever could. The sound of the door closing behind Michael B. Jordan was deafening. For a heartbeat, no one moved. No one spoke. The applause sign flickered above the audience like a ghost light, uncertain whether to glow or die. Then chaos erupted. Producers shouted through headsets. Stage managers sprinted across the floor, trying to signal a commercial break that was already too late. The live feed was still rolling. Every second of it, every glare, every breath, every silence was being broadcast to millions. Whoopi Goldberg was the first to break through the noise. We need to stop, she said, voice firm but steady. She turned to Sunny. That was out of line. Sunny sat motionless, her face unreadable. I asked a question, she replied, her tone defensive but oddly calm. Joy leaned forward, incredulous. You didn't ask a question, Sunny, you started. A fight. The audience, unsure how to react, broke into murmurs, some clapping in defense of Sunny, others booing loudly. The tension in the room was chaos personified. Sarah N. stared down at the table, avoiding eye contact, her hands trembling as she straightened cue cards that no longer mattered. Whoopi took a breath, the weight of the moment pressing down like gravity. We invite guests here to have conversations, she said. Not confrontations. There's a difference. Sunny's eyes flashed. I did my job, I challenged him. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Hold people accountable? Not like that, Whoopi shot back. Not when it's personal. Not when it's cruel. The audience was split right down the middle. Half applauded Sunny's courage. The other half booed, chanting Michael's name. The The sound bounced off the studio walls like thunder. In the control room, someone whispered, "We're trending. It's everywhere already." Sunny turned toward the camera, her jaw tight but her voice unwavering. "I stand by what I said. If asking hard questions makes people uncomfortable, maybe they should look at why." Whoopi looked at her for a long moment, eyes heavy with disappointment. "You just made this about you," she said softly. And as the screen finally cut to an emergency commercial break, the audience's divided roar filled the void. It was no longer just a talk show moment. It was a media earthquake. By the time the View returned from commercial, the damage was done. The clip had already escaped into the digital wild screenshots, sound bites, out-of-context quotes. Within minutes, it was everywhere. #The View meltdown. #Michael B. Jordan walks off. #Sunny Hostin vs Hollywood. The internet devoured it like fire meeting gasoline. Twitter exploded, first one half cheering Michael for standing his ground, the other praising Sunny for asking the tough questions. TikTok flooded with edits, dramatic zooms, slow motion replays, reaction videos layered with commentary. YouTube channels uploaded breakdowns before the show even ended. News alerts pinged across phones worldwide. Michael B. Jordan storms off live TV. Sunny Hostin sparks chaos on The View. Whoopi forced to step in as interview implodes. Every outlet wanted a piece of the story. In the green room backstage, Michael sat in silence. His team surrounded him, phones buzzing nonstop. Someone muttered, "It's viral. Millions of views already." He didn't answer. His hands were clasped tightly, knuckles white. The frustration was there, but beneath it, hurt. "It wasn't supposed to go like that," he whispered. His publicist sighed. "It never is." Meanwhile, on set, Sunny scrolled through her phone, mentions skyrocketing, followers climbing. Hashtags attaching her name to words like fearless, unfiltered, controversial, but mixed among the praise were daggers: rude, unprofessional, jealous, bitter. Joy Behar tried to lighten the mood, muttering, "Well, at least ratings are up." No one laughed. Producers were already drafting statements, corporate PR spinning damage control. Whoopi refused interviews, shaking her head. "I'm not feeding that beast," she said quietly. By evening, cable news was running panels, journalists, actors, psychologists all dissecting a 6-minute meltdown. Was it a clash of egos or a moment of truth? The internet didn't care about nuance. It wanted drama. Clips of Michael removing his mic looped endlessly. Threads debated Sunny's tone, Michael's reaction, Whoopi's silence. Everyone was watching. Everyone had an opinion. And somewhere, between outrage and obsession, the truth got lost, buried beneath algorithms and headlines. But one thing was certain: The View had just crossed from television into history. And for both Michael and Sunny, there would be no going back. The next morning, the studio felt haunted. The same lights that once glowed warm and welcoming now cast long, uneasy shadows. The chairs at the View's table sat empty, silent witnesses to a storm that had torn through live television. Whoopi Goldberg arrived first, quiet, deliberate. She placed her coffee mug on the table and stared into the empty seat Michael had occupied. The memory replayed in her mind, the tension, the walkout, the stunned faces frozen in disbelief. Sunny entered next. Her posture was as rigid as ever, but her eyes told a different story: dark circles. Exhaustion, a storm still raging behind calm composure. She set her phone down, face up, notifications flooding the screen. Thousands of comments, millions of opinions. Half praised her courage, half condemned her cruelty. Whoopi didn't look up. "You ready to talk about it?" Sunny hesitated. "Do I have a choice?" A beat of silence. Then Whoopi said, "There's always a choice. You just made the wrong one yesterday." Sunny's lips tightened. "I asked a question," Whoopi said softly. "You made it personal. You forgot that there's a human being on the other side of the table." Sunny said nothing. Her reflection stared back from the glossy tabletop, flawless, controlled, but cracked in ways only she could see, across town. Michael sat in a dimly lit hotel room, curtains drawn. His phone buzzed with endless notifications, interview requests, endorsements. His team called it a viral victory. but it didn't feel like one. He replayed the moment in his head, the tightening of his chest, the sting of her words, the moment he stood and walked away. He'd faced critics before, but this felt different, intimate, exposed. A news anchor's voice played faintly from the TV in the background. Today, Sunny Hostin issued a brief statement, saying she stands by her comments but regrets the tone of the exchange. Michael turned off the screen. The silence that followed was heavier than the noise. Somewhere between ego and truth, something deeper had been revealed. It wasn't about fame. It wasn't about politics. It was about the cost of conviction, how far people will go to prove they're right, and how much they lose when they forget to listen. And as the headlines faded and the storm moved on, one truth remained. No one walks away from moments like that untouched. And now, it's your turn to decide. Was Michael B. Jordan right to walk away, refusing to be torn down on live television? Or did Sunny Hostin speak an uncomfortable truth that needed to be said, no matter how harsh it sounded? Team Michael says dignity has limits, that no guest should endure public humiliation for entertainment. Team Sunny believes power demands accountability, that celebrities can't hide behind charm when real influence is at stake. So what do you think? Was this a moment of justified outrage? Or a line crossed in the name of truth? Drop your take in the comments. Let the world know where you stand. Team Michael or Team Sunny, who really won that showdown? And if you crave more real talk, more unfiltered showdowns, and more moments that shake pop culture to its core, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss the stories everyone else is too afraid to tell. Because on Talk Show and Tell, we don't just recap what happened, we reveal what it means. Stay bold, stay curious, and remember, some truths burn brighter under pressure.